In today's episode of Crisis and Consequences, we're going to unravel the terrifying and twisted tale of Ruth Finley, a woman stalked by an anonymous predator amid the fearsome reign of the BTK Killer in the late 1970s. We'll discover how a city gripped by fear, a relentless stalker, and the shadow of a notorious serial killer converged in a way that no one could have predicted.
Welcome to Crisis and Consequences, a true crime podcast with a purpose. We dive into murder stories and the complicated humans behind them, blending storytelling, dark humor, and real conversation. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains dark, troubling, and explicit content.
Welcome back to Crisis and Consequences, everybody. Podcast with a purpose.
With a purpose.
Yes. For a purpose, for a cause. Because I used to say for a cause.
You did.
So with a purpose, for a cause.
Yes.
For all the things.
Podcast.
We're doing good work here, people. That's what I have to say. I'm Charity.
I'm KB.
And you're back for more, clearly. You like all the stuff. So I've been wanting to do this story for a while. And like I said, last episode, you needed that context. I'm sorry I put you through that. Many of you already know a lot about BTK. Now Cara Beth can join that club.
Now I'm in on it.
Now you're in on it. Any crises?
Well, yeah, I just had one. I just had to run to the bathroom. And after listening to the horrific BTK story with you, it's quiet where we're at. Like nobody's down here in our little studio area. And so it's usually just you and me. Mm-hmm. And I'm headed over to the bathroom. As soon as I go around the corner, all of a sudden, one of our buildings and grounds guys,
crew,
comes out of the janitor's closet. It scared the pee out of me. So anyway, sorry, Kurt. I probably scared him too a little bit. But anyway, yeah, it's just when you hear these stories.
I know.
And it's funny because the other day I saw something, or maybe it was a reel, whatever I landed on. But somebody had said it was like another artist. And they were like, if you're not listening to like true crime podcasts while you're making art, like, are you like, what are you even doing, or something along those lines? And I'm just like, I think I'd be too on edge to like make.
I do it constantly. I consume a lot of true crime.
Yeah.
And I already have a very high active startle response. Mm-hmm. Like I always have. And I'm sure it comes from being little and so like it's crazy. I mean, in fact, my husband, I can hear him, like he'll go or he'll make some kind of noise when I'm getting ready in the morning if he's going to come say goodbye.
Like as your warning?
Yep. He'll try to make some kind of noise. Well, when I'm like cleaning the house or something, I have my AirPods in.
Yeah.
And what am I listening to? Most of the time it's a podcast. It's not music.
Okay.
If I'm listening to music, I'm usually blasting it through the house.
Yeah, and I'm usually singing along.
Yeah. Yep. And then, God, there's sometimes he is just the living crap out of me. And then he just look at me like, you want me to wear a bell?
As you're hanging from the ceiling fan?
Pretty much.
You're like, yes, please. Actually, that would be quite nice. You just start sewing little bells onto the bottom of all of his pants.
Oh my God. There have been times I've like smacked him on the shoulder like, are you trying to kill me? You're trying to give me a heart attack. He's like, I'm just walking. I'm not doing anything.
Moving on.
Maybe someday. Yeah.
Ruth?
Wichita poet.
The
Wichita poet.
Okay.
I've heard about this a long time ago. Didn't know a lot about it, but it kind of stuck with me. And so then as I started, like, I'll hear something and I'll go put it on a list and then I'll research it. Go like, oh, that was said against this backdrop, which is, again, why we had to talk about BTK. But it'll give you that context and you'll understand why people are thinking what they're thinking and why, people are still hypervigilant, like we talked about last episode. And, that's it's hard for them to let their guard down.
I don't know if you're involved in something in that close proximity that you ever really are able to fully let your guard back down.
Well, this, again, like I said in the intro, intersects in a way that is really bizarre. So we're back in the late 70s, back in Wichita, Kansas. It's summer, it's hot and humid and all the things. It's hot, humid. And so for years, the people in that area, of course, have been living in this grip of this monster in the newspapers called BTK. So, again, he's been active since 74. We know his MO, strikes without warning. If this is the first time you're tuning in, bind, torture, kill, murderer, strikes without warning. He'd stalk his people. He'd leave bodies behind and then vanish and then starts toying with the police. And so now he's toying with the police. These letters are starting to get out of there that are taunting investigators, and he's begging for fame, and the city is freaking out. Police are stretched thin. It's not great. So it's this kind of atmosphere that this story is going to be set. And this is one of the most psychologically complex true crime cases that I've ever come across.
Yeah.
So this starts in June of 77. I was kind of thinking, like, what was I doing in 1977? In June of 77, I was 4 years old. I was expecting my baby sister. I didn't know I don't want a sibling.
Oh.
And I really did not want a sister. So this was like, my world was ready to get rocked in about a month because my sister was born on the 4th of July.
Okay.
And so she had all the strikes against her without it being her fault. So I'm 4 years old. I don't want a sibling. My mom's pregnant. I know this baby's coming. We are on, okay, so this is the 4th of July, 1977. My dad comes home for from a fishing trip without my dog.
Oh.
I had this big white Alaskan Husky.
Oh, pretty.
He was gorgeous. His name was Mister. And my dad said he took off after a squirrel or rabbit or something while they were fishing and he couldn't get him back.
Oh.
So he comes home without my dog. So to cheer me up, we're going to what was going to be my very first fireworks display.
Yeah.
So we're in the car. We're going to the fireworks display. My mom goes into labor.
Oh.
I'm like, motherfucker. And so emergency.
4-year-old Charity did not say that.
I probably did.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, because it's what I heard, right? I had quite the vocabulary. Anyway, so I get imprisoned by the babysitter from hell, this old hag who took my Pop Rocks candy away. Like, she was just mean.
Yeah.
She was just mean. So I'm kind of locked in a room. I'm throwing a fit because I've lost my dog.
Yes.
Now and I can't go to the hospital, and I'm getting a sibling I don't want, and I'm 4. I'm 4, and she locks me in a bedroom.
This sucks.
It sucked. And then the phone call came, and it was my dad calling me. So the cranky old hag gets me out of the room, and I get on the phone, and my dad says, "You have a baby sister." And I'm like, "Take her back. Take her back. Wanted a brother. If I had to have anything, I wanted a brother." I didn't get what I wanted. And then fast forward. So, like, this is why I didn't like my sister. Yeah. I loved my sister, but did not like her when I was 4 years old. And then years later, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, I'm an adult. I have a family of my own. My parents and I have family in town from my husband's side of the family, so we're all out at dinner. My parents are there. And I'm telling this story. And I'm sitting next to my dad. And I looked at him, like I could feel it, because you know how intuitive I am.
Yeah.
I looked at him. I said, "You gave my dog away?" And he just looked down. I'm like, "You gave my fucking dog away?" And that's what they did. They gave him away. He was my best friend.
Why would they do that?
Because they're stupid. They were the worst parents ever. I mean, they're not as bad as some of the ones I'm going to be telling you about, but they weren't great. They say, "Well, we didn't know how he'd be with the baby." You wait and find out if the dog is...
Usually dogs are pretty
Dogs
good,
love babies. Also, he was my best friend. We ate crayons together. It was a whole thing. I mean, so yeah, he gave my freaking dog away. So anyway, that's what I was doing around this time. I wasn't worried about serial killers. I was worried about parents and their stupid decisions. Okay. So Ruth Finley is the subject of our story. She's 48 years old during this time. She's a soft-spoken, really sweet. She works at a telephone company. She spent her adult life building this like ordinary life, just a steady life with her husband, Ed. They had 2 grown sons. They were empty nesters. They lived quiet house, quiet street. She liked to do ceramics. He was an accountant at a construction firm, and he liked to paint for a hobby. So they're just like simple life. Mm-hmm. And that suited them just fine. There was absolutely nothing about the Finleys that would suggest or attract enemies of any sort, right? So then one day, Ed collapses in the backyard from what they think at the time is a heart attack.
Okay.
And so he's admitted to the hospital for observation and treatment. And this is when, like, everything just changes. So Ruth is now home alone, truly alone, for the first time in years. And she turns on the radio, which is blasting nothing but news of BTK.
Oh, gosh.
And then that's getting in her head.
Yep.
And now she's alone and she's freaking out. And so she switches to music instead, trying to get her mind off of this like growing uneasiness she feels, like you were talking about in the last episode, just how that would feel knowing that this is going on in your community. So she's trying to get herself out of this uneasy spiral, but then the phone rings. And this phone call will completely change the course of her life forever. So this unfamiliar male voice is on the other end of the line. And he asks, quote, "Is this Ruth Smock from Fort Scott, Kansas?" So she's rattled. Not only does he know her maiden name, which back then probably was harder to find than it is now, but he knew where she'd grown up, and she didn't recognize the voice at all. And before she could even respond, he tells her, quote, "I know all about that night." And she is terrified. She is sitting there listening to this guy on the other end of the line read an excerpt from a 31-year-old newspaper article from October 15th, 1946 in the Fort Scott Tribune. Quote, "Branded on both thighs by a hot flat iron, apparently by a sex maniac, Ruth Smock, 16-year-old Fort Scott High School girl, was resting today at the home of her parents following an attack upon her early last night." So this was in the paper, and he had this, and he's reading this to her. So until right now, this incident he was reading aloud had been the worst night in her life. She was 16 years old at the time, and she had just come home from the grocery store when she was grabbed by a man from behind who began ripping at her clothing. He was a 50-year-old, just gross pervert. She put up a fight. She jammed her thumb right into his eyes, and he was so angry that she fought back that he covered her mouth with chloroform.
Oh, shoot.
And when she passed out, he branded her with a freaking iron on her thighs, leaving really deep first-degree burns, both thighs, among other injuries sustained during the attempt to fight him off. So he's bringing her all the way back to this horrific trauma that she endured. And he's asking her if she still wore her brand, and told her that if she didn't pay him to stay silent, he would spread the news of her attack at her workplace. Like, if it's already in the paper, like, I don't know. I found that strange.
That is strange. But I mean, it was in the paper, 31 years ago?
Yeah.
So it's like people aren't, that's a long time
I
ago.
don't know about it, but
yeah, but still,
pay,
it's like.
pay me? Like, a ransom for information that's already publicly available just seems weird to me.
It's weird, but.
So she doesn't know what to do. She hangs up on him, and then she's exhausted, freaking out. She completely passes out in bed, like just whatever. So her husband was hospitalized for another week before getting released, and it ended up not being a heart attack at all, but some sort of underlying injury he'd sustained in a car accident, like within the last year. So nothing else happened, thankfully, while he was in the hospital. But Ruth was still like every second being alone, wondering if that guy would call back. So Ed returns home. Ruth doesn't tell him about the call. She just wants things to go back to normal. Safe, boring, normal. That same summer, she's at work one day, and an envelope was delivered to her desk with her name on it. She opens it to find that old newspaper clipping of her attack. It really threw her. She just threw it away, though, didn't do anything about it. That same day, he called her at home again, and this kept happening over several months. She'd hang up on every time before he had any time to say anything more than just her name. A couple times when the phone rang, Ed would try to get the call and try to like make a connection and maybe try to scare the guy off, but he was never able to catch him. So things started to escalate in August of 1977. Ruth is walking around downtown where she works, like the downtown area, and this man kind of falls into step beside her. She's just whatever. He's going in the same direction, kind of ignores him at first. She's kind of in her head. And all of a sudden he speaks to her. Oof. And he says, "You've done such a good job working this week. You can take the weekend off." And completely freaked out, she finally risks looking at him and trying to get as many details of his appearance as she could. He was late 40s, black hair going a little salt and peppery at the temples, 5'9" or so, skinny build. She said he had a plaid sport coat, jeans, and white canvas shoes. And he starts asking her questions about her job. She refuses to answer him or confirm anything that he's asking. She just keeps walking, and when he persists, she tells him she's waiting for her husband. And he told her he'd be seeing her again, wink. Ooh. And then when Ed finally does arrive, because she wasn't lying, She finally tells him about the creepy guy who'd follow her, but Ed kind of brushed it off because he doesn't know. Well, I mean, it's the phone calls, but whatever. So it'd be nearly another year before this guy reappeared. So now it's June of 78, again downtown. She's walking by, like I got the sense she'd like walk on her lunch hours quite a bit. So anyway, she's walking downtown. He grabs out from an alleyway as she passes and grabs her by the wrist. Oof. She manages to escape. She runs into a Macy's across the street looking for the nearest phone. She calls her husband, telling him that guy was back. When he came to take her home, she finally told him everything, like about the envelope at work, about the call that happened when he was in the hospital, because he didn't know about that. Okay. He just knew about And so he goes to the police to file a report, but of course nothing comes from it because they're all focused on BTK, right?
They're like, this is a low level.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's October of that year, 1978. She receives another envelope, this time sent to her house. And there's a piece of paper inside that read, "Fuck you, fuck the police, fuck the telephone company, give me money or you will be hurt."
Oh.
So very different tone from before. Fast forward to November 6th of 78, Ruth and Ed go to finally seek help from the Wichita PD. Lieutenant Bernie Drowowski was assigned to Ruth's case. They told him all about the harassment she'd been enduring and got asked the typical, like, do you know anyone who'd want to harm you kind of questions, and they had nothing helpful to give him. They did take the report seriously, but with no leads and with BTK consuming all of their resources, it's just kind of left on the back burner. So over the following months, the letters begin to multiply, and they come with crude rhymes, misspellings, and bizarre vocabulary. Words like prolegomena and psychosthenia appear alongside grammatical errors that seem to suggest someone performing intelligence rather than possessing intelligence. So the anonymous author demands money, threatens Ruth's life, and mocks the police by name. So let me read you a few of these little poems. "The river is searched for the perished. Whores will hate me, but by men I will be cherished. Viper thoughts coil round my mind. Torture and agony are unkind." So that's one. Here's another. "Here's to you, my tender Valentine, red with blood and tied with twine. Nothing too much for a Valentine, gone from here by a whim of mine." So stupid, but spooky, right? Okay.
It's not a poem you want to receive.
No. But this letter went on to say, "I can tell if anybody is watching me. Don't be a dumb bitch again and blow this. I'll try to be your friend, but when you're a dumb bitch, I don't like you. This time you talk to me when I call you soon. Wherever you go or on water or land, you still got to pay or I'll tell about your brand. I am smart and know things to do. You talk to people I despise like police, lieutenant, and telespies." I'm guessing telephone company. Anyway, this guy's batshit, right?
Yeah.
Just batshit.
Well, and I'm like, I don't know, for her, I'd be like, fine, tell people about my brand. I think I would get to that point where I'd be like, I'll tell
Okay,
them.
knock yourself out. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's why, yeah.
I don't know.
But the grabbing and stuff, and it does escalate, so, okay. And clearly they just like the quiet life, so I think for some people,
Yes, and it's...
and back in those
relive
days,
it.
women also did not know how to advocate for themselves real well.
No, people couldn't even talk about, like, you wouldn't say, this is why even now I feel like menopause, perimenopause.
Or like the last episode we said, oh, pap smear.
Yeah.
Like back then.
You did not talk about this stuff, period. Like,
especially in the Midwest.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So I guess I get it. I take back.
So all these letters are coming. Ruth and Ed keep giving the letters to the police, who pass them to the lab for fingerprinting. And Ed, the husband, is finally the one who gives the writer his nickname, the Poet. So this is the Wichita Poet. So this campaign of terror escalates beyond even this. So Ruth's, in no particular order, this is kind of like a bullet point. They have a Christmas wreath on their door set on fire. A butcher knife appears at her workplace. On their doorstep, they've got a bottle of urine, a jar of feces, broken glass, chunks of concrete. Phone lines are cut multiple times. More than 50 letters are sent out to local Wichita businesses in a single 6-month stretch. One is like to a mortuary, informing them that Ruth is soon going to be needing their services. One is to the gas and electric company, instructing them to shut off the Finley's utilities. One's to the health department, claiming Ruth was spreading venereal disease. Another's to the DMV demanding her license be revoked for dangerous driving. Like, it's just anything and everything trying to impact every aspect of this woman's life.
Who is this guy?
Right. November 21st of 78, Ruth was abducted during her lunch break by two men in a blue-green Chevrolet Bel Air. After being assaulted and threatened, she was driven around the city for several hours. Eventually, Ruth convinced her captors to let her out at a park under the pretense of needing to pee. She had a can of mace in her purse, so she used a can of mace to escape. She hid in the cold until her attackers left. And I think sometimes I get stories conflated, especially if I don't write details down, but I think they said they kept her shoes so that she would be less likely to run, but she ran anyway. So she uses this can of mace. Once they leave, she seeks help at a liquor store. The police and her husband were called. They went to the scene at the park the next day, but they found no evidence that could lead them to the men who had abducted her. So police finally step up surveillance of the Finley home. And now the question hanging over every detective on the case is, okay, with the poetry connection, is the poet the same man? Is it also BTK? Is Ruth Finley a BTK target? It didn't quite seem to fit the MO, but there were some parallels. And so that December, Detective Dorotsky receives a letter personally from the poet after he had gone on a radio show trying to egg the stalker on to call into the station so Ruth could listen to callers' voices, which I thought was kind of cool. It didn't pan out, but the letter really ticked him off, and it ticked Ed off too. And so Ed took to lying in wait in their yard with his shotgun. He's waiting for the poet to come to their house, dare to come to their house, because all this stuff would appear.
Yeah.
Somebody had to come at some point, and he's going to get him. Never appeared while Ed was on duty.
Jeez.
In July of 79, the letters came to a crashing halt. Ruth and Ed started feeling comfortable enough to kind of live their lives. Maybe this is over. They planned a vacation. Vacation was set for August, and she went to go buy a new pair of jeans for the occasion, like we like to do before we go on vacation. As she was leaving the department store, a man started calling after her. It's kind of, the darkness is coming, the sun's going down. She's beelining for her car. Now she's freaking out. And it was one of the same guys who had abducted her before. So she's running for her car. He catches her. He stabs her 2 times in the back and once in her side. And the third stab wound caused the blade to stick. And so he loses his grip on the handle when it wouldn't come out of her. Third stab wound, so the blade is stuck. He loses grip. But she's able to get in her car on the passenger side and start rolling the windows up and, locking the doors. And she catches his hand in the window, and it leaves a glove.
Okay.
So he had to pull his hand out, and it leaves a glove in the window as he pulled his hand free. She's bleeding pretty badly, but she drives away. She pulls into the nearest gas station when she's sure she's not being followed, calls the police. But she's so terrified that he's going to circle around and find her that she leaves before the police can get there. And she drives home.
Girlfriend, go to the hospital.
I know, but she goes home. Ed takes her to the hospital. So now doctors are examining Ruth, and they report some pretty serious cuts on her back and her left arm, and she has a 2-inch deep puncture where the knife had gotten stuck.
Yeah.
They stitched her up. She had to stay in the hospital for 9 days as a result from her injuries. One was really, really close to a kidney, I think. And during that time, a nurse told police that a man matching the attacker's description had approached the nursing desk asking after Ruth.
I was wondering. Yeah.
And this is when Dorotsky himself stayed at the, stood guard. And then after she's out, he stayed at their home waiting for this guy to show up. And he never did. Later that year, her husband...
She saw him, so she recognized him?
The guy, yes, that when she was leaving the department store, one of the guys who had abducted her in the car that day, that was one of them.
But so, she doesn't have, any, but she didn't recognize him from her past, or her day-to-day life at all, does not know this guy.
Correct.
Strange.
Correct. Okay, so later that year, her husband's had enough of it, so he takes out an ad in the classifieds, which again, BTK kind of parallel, essentially asking the poet, what do I owe you? How do we resolve this? And so they started corresponding through the newspaper for a while, but nothing ever actually led to this guy, the poet's capture or to a resolution. They even tried hypnosis to see if Ruth contained some sort of information deep down that could help lead them to this person or people. But the session ended when she started panicking, reliving her experience of being locked in the car when she'd been abducted. So they stopped that. On other occasions, I talked about the phone line being cut multiple times. This butcher knife, I talked about it a little bit, but it was wrapped in a red bandana, and that'll be important later. It was found at her office. So she'd received a call from at work while she was at work from the poet telling her he'd left a surprise for her in the lobby. And so that she calls the police. They go and they find the knife wrapped in this bandana along with another poem. And this poem read, "Shut your eyes and think of a 12-inch blade. Will you remember the hole it made? Dream of me and obey my commands. Think of me with a knife in my hands." So rhyming's getting a little better.
Yeah.
Still terrible. Okay. So this kind of crap went on for months. This is the literary criticism podcast. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're gonna do a spinoff right now. Okay, no, we're not. All right. So this kind of crap went on for months, totaling over 50 letters and poems. He sent. I already said that. Okay, I
I
repeated.
think I'm like worn out from the BTK Killer.
Probably.
Now this guy.
All right, so the poet's harassment continued. He left an ice pick, a bottle of urine on the front porch. He left Molotov cocktails and broken glass on the steps.
that?
Oh, like where you really cool. You take like a bottle of something like booze or whatever, put the thing in it and light it.
Light on fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? He left firecrackers, cigarettes.
Really cool.
I've never done it. That was just trying to blow up the bus, but it was not a Molotov cocktail. Okay. She also found a rock wrapped in the poet's what's become a signature red bandana in her backyard, along with a pair of wire cutters. So it was just constant, persistent mind fuckery, right?
That's annoying.
Yeah. So now we're in 1981. Ruth has lived under this threat for around 4 years. But the poet, almost as if taunting the chief of police for not catching him, decides to insert himself into the case and sends one of his ridiculous rhyming letters to the police chief's wife.
Oh.
Okay. So that hits at a different level, right?
Yeah, of course.
I'm not just the chief of police with some detectives working on this case. Now it's personal. Now he's paying attention. So he takes the case file himself. He pores over it. He's like, I'm not doing this. Yeah. Detail by detail. It's really, really, really too bad he hadn't done that sooner because he tuned into something no one else had. All of these reports of the poet being at the Finley home and 0 neighbors seeing anybody or anything. And they had installed surveillance cameras. Nothing. They caught nothing. He started to get suspicious that it had to either be Ed or Ruth behind
weird.
these. And he didn't think it was Ed. So the team was shocked. They're like, we've been supporting these people for years.
Yeah.
They're wonderful people.
Like
It
how
could
this
not
be?
be the Finleys. And he's like, well, there had never been a single witness to any of Ruth's encounters with the poet. Not a single one. And they all occurred in public places.
Yeah, that is odd.
They lived on a dead-end street with little traffic, yet none of the neighbors or the police officers stationed had ever spotted the poet. There were no footprints ever discovered around their home. Detectives only found a single set of footprints in that park where she'd gotten out to pee, and they were hers. When she maced the kidnapper, they were hers. She claimed the kidnapper had struck her in the face with concrete, but her face showed no injury. Ruth had called the Central Investigations Office in the police department after she'd been stabbed. Why not 911?
That's weird. Well, and like going to the gas station, why wouldn't? Yeah. I don't understand.
And then she gets out of the car to make the call, gets back in the car and drives home. And how could she do that with a knife in her back?
I don't know.
She got a knife in her back, allegedly. Captain Hill had received a poet, this different guy, from the poet as soon as he had took over Ruth's case, but only Ruth, Ed, and the police knew that he had assumed command. So that's like internal information. How would he get a letter?
Right.
And then as soon as the recording camera was placed in a birdhouse outside of their house, a camera of which only the Finleys and police were aware, the poet stopped appearing in Ruth and Ed's backyard. And the poet's messages to Ed in the newspaper's classified section stopped whenever the Finleys were on vacation and resumed whenever they returned. So
Super weird.
they had Ed and Ruth surveilled, I mean, even by like helicopter. So they're like, hovering and doing it. And they observe Ed driving Ruth to a mailbox where she mailed a handful of letters. The police intercept the letters and later match the stamps that had been used to a book located in the Finley home, like the perforation, exact tears, like microscopically. 2 of those pieces of mail were from the poet. So first, they brought Ed in to question him. He took a polygraph and he passed, so he was cleared of being behind the harassment of his wife. So the same day, they bring Ruth in. She's at work. They called her and they said, hey, can you come in and look at some mugshots? Maybe we found your guy. So she comes in. They present her with evidence that she was likely behind the letters and the threats. And after some conversation, the detective says, I'm not angry with you, but I just want to help. Like, what's going on? And she falls apart. And she confessed to being the poet, begging him to help her because she didn't know why she was doing this. Now, at the same time, a search team accompanied by Ed goes through the house. They find a book of poems. They find pencils, pens, letters, carbon paper, a ruler, a writing tablet, and pieces of red bandana. Ed's shock, he later says, is tempered with this overwhelming relief. Like, if Ruth is the poet, then she's safe.
Yeah. Kind of.
Kind of. So in the interrogation room, Ruth is asked to walk detectives through her life, and she eventually confesses to writing the letters. She said she sent them to herself, that she had staged the attacks, including stabbing herself 3 times with an ice pick in the parking lot. And the room goes silent. This is a first. I mean, and they meant what they said. They had grown to know these people, and they did not believe for 1 second that she was intentionally being malicious.
Right.
So they agreed that despite the nearly $400,000 in police costs investigating her case over 3+ years, that they would not press charges if she agreed to psychiatric help, which she did. So on November 2nd of 81, Ruth begins psychotherapy, during which she begins writing poems that pointed to possible reasons why she'd behaved this way. This is the Crisis and Consequences podcast, after all. Hickory dickory dock, the hands fell off the clock. Running from the man and get away, my legs are gone, so I have to stay. The potty was warm and red. Hide the mess on the bed. I hate him. He feels like a railroad track. So the Sedgwick County District Attorney declined to press charges because her evaluation revealed something that kind of shifted all of this entirely. As a teenager, Ruth had been the victim of severe childhood sexual abuse beginning at about 3.5 years old at the hands of a neighbor. He'd begun, as they do, by playing little games with her and then gradually began tying her up in the barn with a red bandana. And as it turns out, her abuser would also stuff her mouth with a red bandana to keep her quiet as he abused her as a little tiny child. And during those assaults, she had learned to cope by mentally floating off so she could see what was happening to the girl below, totally disassociating. Yep. And she said, but somehow it wasn't so bad if it wasn't me, because I was just watching. And I have memories like that too. I was just describing that in therapy where I see things happening and it's not because
where it's almost like an out of body.
Yep. And this went on for months. So she buried those memories. She wasn't even able to recall them. And then in that summer of 77, 2 things had happened simultaneously. Her husband, her protector, suffered what she thought was a heart attack. The city is saturated with news of BTK. And so her psychotherapist believed it was the combination of these 2 stressors because of what she had endured as a child. And then, of course, what happened with the branding and stuff. Just this psychological manifestation and this alternate identity born from all of this unresolved trauma. The poet was born. Yeah. And so Ruth was diagnosed with atypical impulse disorder with dissociative and depressive features. Not, as she clarified herself in a 1994 appearance on Oprah, a multiple personality disorder. There was one Ruth, but parts of her had been like fractured by the trauma that she had endured. So following treatment, there were no further incidents, no more letters, no more attacks. Ruth Finley died in June of 2019 at 89 years old. But her story really never left the public, consciousness, if you will. It was first told in depth in the 1990 book Little Girl Fly Away by journalist Jean Stone. And it was a compassionate reconstruction of the case and her years of psychotherapy. And then in 2025, author in Barrack College, Professor Corey Mead published The Pursued, a true story of stalking, memory, and madness in America's heartland. And so it brought that fresh research to light in her case. And then there was even a Lifetime movie made for TV movie, The Killer Inside the Ruth Finley Story, with Terry Hatcher portraying Ruth.
Okay.
It's currently available on Hulu and Prime Video if you want to see it. But that is the story of the Wichita poet.
That is quite the twist I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Are you ready to re-enter the workforce or find a career that actually fits? Or maybe you're an employer, tired of noisy platforms that miss the mark? Try Focus, a smarter hiring tool that helps you cut through the noise and focus on what matters. Visit focus.work today. That's FOQUS.WORK.
Yeah. I mean, her brain broke.
Her brain broke. She snapped.
Yeah.
She snapped. And what a horrific childhood she had. That's awful. And so, yeah, it's like a dam was built.
Yeah.
And when all of that started coming about in 1977,
Right.
that dam broke and it just started seeping out in a weird way.
Yeah, I got the sense for a while she wasn't even aware she was doing it. And then she kind of becomes aware she's doing it, but she doesn't understand why she's doing it. And
Well, and that's where you talk about that, like, dissociation. It's like she's doing it, but, like, I don't know. And why? Why, why threaten yourself? Why? I don't know. I guess that's for the psychologist to figure out.
Yeah.
But, ugh.
And terrible.
It is terrible.
So,
poor Ruth.
but at least and the stab back here, like kidney, I think it was very serious. It was
9
very
days in the
serious.
hospital, I would assume so. But it's like, I don't know. Again, it's kind of like going through that even for like then her husband to be like, good grief, So, yeah, you feel, I don't know how you process all of that. Hoping, like, because then I think, like, in his shoes, like, I'm like, she's like this fragile little egg that I don't want to crack again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're constantly tiptoeing because it's like, I don't want.
I think it was cool that they didn't press charges.
Oh, very kind that they didn't press charges because they could have.
I mean,
and that's a lot of money back then.
I was just listening to a story about a sex worker that went missing, and her colleagues, her sex worker sisters, if you will, were pretty sure they knew what happened and who did it. Mm-hmm. And so they went to the police. They took the gamble of going to the police, and then the police end up charging them with the crime of sex work.
Oh.
Instead of, thank you for helping us on this investigation and solving this murder, we're going to file charges on you now for doing illegal work. It's like, come on.
Yeah, no. Don't do that.
No. So if you had been in Ed's position, how do you think you would have reacted to Ruth's confession?
That's a hard one. Because you'd be so flabbergasted, right? But it sounds like Ed loved and really cared for her. And so that's why I'm like, that's a hard thing because you have to just stand by. I think that I would be, like I just said, like I think I would be, where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. I think I'd be shocked. That's a lot of years of going through a lot of trauma himself, you know what I mean? Like trying to protect her and
4 years.
Be with her and who's doing this? I mean, that's exhausting. Mm-hmm. And then, to find out, okay, well, it was just her, so she's safe, right? Kind of. But then wondering, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Because I think when she gets out of, therapy and treatment, it's like, is something, I think I would be fearful that I'd be constantly tiptoeing around her going, what if something sets her off again? I don't know.
It just makes me wonder, like, if she had not turned on the radio that day,
Would she have been okay?
would it have ever happened?
Maybe not. Because that's where I think sometimes, and maybe it would have come out in a different way. Sometimes I think our demons can only be buried for so long. Our old past history, like, it's like even with stress, if you're constantly just stuffing stress down every day instead of dealing with it, it starts to build into icky things. Like, that could be sickness, it could be mental health issues. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I guess I keep thinking more about how there were so many victims of BTK, his family, the people he murdered, their families. But then here's this ancillary one of, like, I'm just hearing these horrors on the radio, on the news, and it triggers my own demons. And just look at that ripple effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wish there was something we could do and test, and, if we could just do it all at once and just purge. And I don't know. These hurt people that end up going on to do heinous things to other people. Like, I just wish there's a way to break cycles all at once and then have it's way too utopian. But.
Well, and it's one of those things, yeah, it is. I mean, that would be what we would, have a perfect world, you know what I mean? And we just don't live in that. But it's hard because it's so many different scenarios. You have complete psychopaths, right? Like this BTK. And then you have someone like her who's a hurt person who she's not necessarily hurting people, she's hurting herself. You know what I mean? Like, all of that throughout, it's like she's threatening herself.
I think I got the sense too. I didn't put it in these notes, but if memory serves, her brother, I think, had mentioned or recalls a conversation with their parents about this neighbor that did this to her. And it was just that.
Was he ever caught then? The neighbor that
I don't
did this
think
to her?
so.
Okay.
I think they were just of the, well, we can't imagine him doing that. That Midwestern nice where we're never going to call anybody on their shit and we're just going to look the other way. If we brush it under the rug, it didn't happen. We can't possibly be rude enough to suggest out loud somebody did these things, because you just didn't back then. So I don't think they did. I think this went on for about 4.5 months of her life, but it progressed pretty quickly and was very, very brutal.
Awful.
Yeah. 3.5. Your 3.5-year-old should not be allowed to go into the barn with a fucking neighbor. I don't care who your neighbor is.
Well, this is where people aren't watching their kids. I mean, I think back to...
Oh, yeah, I ran around the neighborhood at
I think back
3
to my
and 4 years old.
I was we were crawling in the ditches. We were crawling in the sewage tunnels where there wasn't sewage. But
those are culverts, and there's stormwater, not sewage.
Sorry. But like, we're crawling through these tunnels.
Sewage are underground. You're welcome.
Clarifying so I don't sound like such a little...
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's like we used to crawl all over, right? And then it's like... running around the block. My parents used to call me home when the streetlights would come on.
Yep.
Gabba! And I'd hear it from like way up and around the block, and I'd come, it actually wasn't usually running, it was on my bike. But it's like, even as a little person, that's
How'd
like,
that go?
I'm pedaling with my...
This is running. This is biking. You see your feet going.
We should probably make one of those bikes where it's like double duty. That could be a good workout. It'd be like the elliptical, what's that bike? Remember the bike?
Yes.
It's like from the 80s.
Yeah.
I need one of those. Anyway, you could really get places. But it's like, I think about, we used to also ride our bikes down to the gas station, which was not close. We used to go to the school and play. Mom, can we go down? And a lot of times we weren't by ourselves, but sometimes it's like you'd be with you and one other person, and that other person would be like, I'm going to go home. So now you're riding your bike home. As this little girl by yourself in the 80s Like, this is when stuff was happening.
Yeah.
In the 70s, in the 80s.
Yep.
And it's like, no. And so, yeah, how could she be out in the barn with this guy? Well, because evidently we were all under this,
And this,
like we were all high as a kite or something. We just didn't think that people did bad things.
right.
I don't.
We know
But
people
that's
did
the
bad
weird
things.
part. It's like you go all the way back even to like way back in like Roman history. People have been very wicked for
Yeah.
a very long time.
Yeah.
Like since the beginning of time, basically.
Right.
People have really evil tendencies.
The dawn of humanity.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
So, but that's where I'm like, when you look
This
at these,
is how helicopter parents were birthed.
which created its own slew of
Can't breathe
problems.
outside. Don't look at that person.
I know.
Don't look at my kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's like, and then you give them a tablet. Here, this will entertain you.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to entertain you. So now you entertain yourself with this. And now guess where they're all coming
I'm
from.
going to protect you and no one can be around you. But guess what? Now the pedophiles are right in your device.
Yeah, they're right in your face,
Yeah.
in your bedroom, and nobody knows.
In your car, in your backpack, in your locker. They're everywhere. Yeah.
Well,
Okay. I'm done.
thanks for joining us. As always, please remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Share, and leave us a 5-star review because that helps people find us. And if you have stories,
Ideas.
comments,
Corrections.
even if you have
Insight.
ideas on like how we can start finding these guys and help them before they do terrible crimes.
Or if you want to see Care Beth do other types of exercise on camera instead of just bicycling.
Bicycling with my hands. Hit us up at hello@crisisandconsequences.com. You're going to find us on all of our socials under that same headline. So until next time.
We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.